under the slogan of shaping our digital future. The Arab International Digital Cooperation and Development Forum, DCDF, will bring together representatives and experts from Arab governments, the business sector, civil society, the technical community, academia, and international organizations. DCDF will be held virtually from 13 to 23 December 2021 by ESCO, LAS, ITU, UNCTAD, and UNDESA. Through almost 30 sessions over 8 days, you can participate in policy debate on priority issues in the fields of internet policies and digital development globally and in the Arab region. DCDF aims to align the Arab tracks of the World Summit on the Information Society and the Internet Governance Forum to maximize opportunities for digital cooperation. Register now to join us in this journey from 13 to 23 December. Together, let's shape our digital future.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session titled Forging Partnerships for Implementing Digital Transformation in the Arab Region. My name is Karim Abdelghani. I'm the Program Coordinator in the ITU Arab Regional Office, and I'm delighted to moderate this session today. This session is brought to you by the International Telecommunications Union in collaboration with the UN Economic and Social Council for Western Asia, the host of the Digital Development Cooperation Framework Forum. I would like to start by thanking Unesco for the excellent organization of this important event. Before we start, let me remind you that you can interact with the panel and with each other using the chat box. We will be taking questions and answers after the panelists finish their interventions later on in the session towards the end. And also, if you wish to listen to this panel in other languages, there is interpretation. You can use the Zoom feature, the button on the bottom, to access simultaneous interpretation for French and English and Arabic. So, to give a little bit of context about this session, allow me to share a small story that inspired this session. Earlier this year, ITU received a formal request from the government of Sudan to assist in developing a national digital transformation strategy. As ITU is a big believer in partnerships, we immediately started coordinating with some of the important partners we are working with in the region, including UNDP, Unesco, WHO, FAO, and others. For the first time in the region, we managed to formulate a multi-stakeholder partnership to assist a specific country on digital transformation. Unfortunately, these efforts did not see light due to the end of the political situation in Sudan, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the people and government of Sudan to resolve the situation, hopefully soon. However, it posed a big opportunity to build on this and assist other countries in the region. Digital transformation has been a hot topic globally and regionally. There's a need to pool scarce resources and compounded efforts to assist countries in the Arab region based on global practices. Digital transformation is a domain that requires whole-of-government approaches, multi-stakeholder partnerships, one UN collaboration, and whole of society's engagement. This session is intended to explore this further. And so I'm pleased to have a panel representing renowned development actors in the space of digital transformation in the MENA region that will join us today. Allow me to extend a warm welcome to the distinguished speakers of the session. Mr. Ayman Sherbini, the Chief of ICT Policies and Digital Development in Unesco, as well as Dr. Paul Hector, the Advisor for Communication and Information in Unesco's Regional Bureau for Sciences in the Arab States, in the Unesco Regional Bureau for Science in the Arab States, and then Mr. Dan Uwazan, Digital Transformation Specialist, Regional Program for Arab States in the UNDP, Mr. John Mark Fure, the Regional Program Leader in the FAO Regional Office for the Near East and North Africa, in Cairo, based in Cairo, Egypt, and then Engineer Mohammed Noor, the DHI Digital Health Information Officer in the WHO Eastern Mediterranean Regional Office. So let us start with Ayman. We have heard a lot about your efforts in leading the work to develop the Arab Digital Agenda and the regional ICT strategy in partnership with a variety of stakeholders, including the ITU. Can you tell us about the importance of the Arab Digital Agenda and the regional ICT strategy and how it may aid countries or guide them and all stakeholders in their digital transformation efforts? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Karim. Thanks for inviting me to this session, which is part of the Arab WSIS track that we have been working together with you and the organization you represent regionally and globally since 18 years with ITU, and with you we are not that really with the Arab office except when you really took this positive initiative to work with us, and we work with you in the last 6 years. So first of all, we have walked the talk. Before I talk about the Arab Digital Agenda, we have walked the talk when we started in Unesco after 2015, reading more and more this correlation and intersection between the WSIS, let us say, overarching framework in its first renewal from 2015 to 2025. This was the first renewal. The Tunis agenda was in 2005. And we have witnessed the lifetime of Tunis, of WSIS before the SDGs and after SDGs. During the 10 years where MDGs were prevailing, we haven't really had that, let us say, readiness globally or regionally to link the WSIS with the MDGs, except for like kind of a reference here or there, a shy reference, if you may. Although we have seen in the global WSIS every year this very decent aggregation of all the UN in the WSIS forums during that decade, we cannot deny that. But when the 2015 mark came, we've seen the UN General Assembly stresses in its resolution 70/125 the need for linking more the WSIS in its second decade with the 2030 agenda that was born by then. And not only that, but there was a strengthened emphasis on the importance to implement the WSIS at the regional level, or regional commissions entrusted to do that. But as usual, we don't work alone and we can't work alone. We need the partnership. That is the merit and the spirit of that session today. So in the spirit of One UN, we started thinking, first of all, to do this Arab WSIS forum in a very structured and robust manner. And this were Karim and Paul. Actually, they started giving us that green signals that they really have the same beliefs. So 3 of us, we did the Arab, let us say, high-level forum on WSIS and 2030 agenda, the first iteration, 2017. It was a great experiment. We worked for 30 sessions in 5 days. We had a declaration, Beirut consensus, and we strengthened or emphasized this idea of One UN partnership. And then in 2019, we did the same, but over and above, Karim managed to bring RDF component, ITU RDF, Regional Development Forum, to be a significant component of the Arab High-Level Forum on WSIS 2030 agenda. By that time, Arab IGF was still a cousin, not a sister, let us say, track. And even globally, it is not part of the conventional approach for the global WSIS. So it was still a bit distant. This year, with the DCDF, Digital Cooperation Development Forum, we took the oath to bring even the Arab IGF as a component, and not only that, but global components like the UNGIS session. The UNGIS session was very important, a global also model for partnership, and we also work together with all the conviction between us and the vice chairs of the UNGIS, UN Group on Information Society. Something that is there at the global level, 32 UN organizations, aggregated once a year to see how information society is developing in the world. But we don't have something similar in the Arab region. But we are very much interested to try to have that kind of get together, at least in such kind of platforms. But not only that, having the three or like multi-track, multi-organizational tracks, of course, the League of Arab States with us, and also different processes together, global plus regional together. But the most important is the time. And that is the question of Karim. The time cannot be better. This is the first year of the second decade of the millennium, and third decade, actually. In 2010, 11 years ago, Europe had the European Digital Agenda. In 2020, Europe has achieved a lot in terms of policy harmonization, directives, guidelines, and everything that can create a single European market. And this is what they reached. And we had, by that time, an Arab ICT strategy in the region by the League of Arab States, 2007, 2012. The strategy started, the strategy ended, but there was no, let us say, high-level impact of the strategy. Meanwhile, we lived this. We had a parallel regional plan of action by ESCWA in 2006, and we reviewed it in 2009 and 2013 and so on. This parallelism needed to be eliminated. So that is actually what we are working towards now together as one UN with the League of Arab States. We, with full conviction, managed in the Ministerial Council meeting in 2019 in Riyadh to describe the merits of we as ESCWA not doing another regional plan of action, and that LAS should not do a similar ICT strategy, but ESCWA, LAS plus ITU, Unesco, UNDP, UNCTAD, and now we see WHO and we see the FAO, and everyone should come together as one UN with one LAS and serve the region. And this is actually what has been confirmed in another ministerial council in 2020. And there was a modality and the vision document that describes this approach. So that Arab Digital Agenda is intended to become not only a document like the one that has been done before in 2007, whether by ESCO or less, but a platform for projects, initiatives, and real policy change in the region. Not only for in the ICT sector, and here comes the terminology, Arab Digital Agenda, but in all sectors affected by ICT. So it is actually a national aggregation of national agendas into an Arab agenda. This is one view of it. Or the other way around, it's an Arab agenda that should inspire spin-off of national agendas. So it becomes like a model datum where countries move together to achieve certain targets. There will be targets, baselines, follow-up and monitoring framework, collaboration and partnership framework, and there will be that forum, DCDF, as a venue for the League of Arab States to, among others, of course, not only, to come and discuss where it should go in the year after and the year after and the year after, within a multi-stakeholder, let us say, policy consultation mode taken into, let us say, intergovernmental setting. So that kind of coupling is embedded in the approach. And we missed, or the time did not allow us to invite WHO. Now, Mr. Mohammed Noor, please consider this also an invitation to become a champion among the one UN approach in the Arab Digital Agenda. Also, Dani, we had Ms. Khalida a few days ago. She had also pledged a lot of support to the Arab Digital Agenda. And we have components and tentacles that touches the national and from the national to the regional and vice versa. To also tell you that this is something very robust. It is actually based on a conceptual model that is being implemented now in 15 countries regarding what is called digital development. 5 clusters: economy, society, culture, and the ICT sector, and so on. So there are 5 simple clusters where every organizations or a group of organizations can find a leadership area in each. And to be very also transparent, it was inspired from the ITU matrix, where the ITU matrix in 2015, for conceptual illustrative purpose, they draw this matrix between the SDGs and the action lines, but there were like 200 points of intersections. The new here is that it is just 5 clusters. And now we have the reviews per countries. We have the reviews per region. We have the agendas per country. What is missing now is the Arab Digital Agenda per the region. And that is really a great opportunity for governments, private sector, and the end of the line, the citizens, to enjoy the global setting similar to Europe, inshallah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this general context about the strategic direction of where the Arab region is. And I think you mentioned the time is now, which links, I think, with the next question, Paul. Since COVID-19, all stakeholders, particularly governments, have been focusing on digital transformation. In your view, can you please explain why digital transformation is important, particularly in the Arab region?
Well, thank you, Kareem, and let me join with Ayman, and again thanking you and ITU for organizing this session. And it's really a pleasure to be here. First of all, well, digital transformation, it means many things to many people. We're still trying to figure out what exactly we mean by that. But in general, just to set the frame, we're talking about how economies, societies, the public sector, even the private lives of citizens are becoming more connected, more intertwined through the internet, digital tools and technologies, and again, just changing the way in which we create value and deliver it. So there are many, many reasons why these changes are being reinforced right now, but I just want to touch on 4 which I think are particularly important. First of all, the Arab region right now, it's at a stage like other regions where it's lagging behind in its achievement of the 2030 SDGs. So that is one very important driver. Another important driver that's also helping this digital transformation to take place is the fact that we've now hit a sort of an important tipping point. We have more than 50% of the world now connected, now online. A third point, again, we talked about the COVID-19. It's really served as a sort of a forcing function. It really highlighted the critical importance of a whole range of digital tools, digital services, and this has really forced those who have been skeptical, the sort of late adopters, those who have been resistant to change, to really come on board. And a fourth point has been, there is growing recognition that digital transformation, it's a type of potentially disruptive innovation, and as such, it needs to be managed, it needs to be governed. I'll just say a little bit more on each of these 4. So looking at the first one, I talked about this region not being on track. There are a number of challenges which the Arab region faces. I mean, if we look at things like access to water, which is really key for, people's lives, key for agriculture, industry, etc. They're really big challenges, being faced in this region. We think about one of the priorities on the SDG 5. It's again the role of women. We see a number of challenges there. Education, the ability to build the human capital, which is really so vital for progress. Again, we have a number of challenges. And one of the things which is really interesting is that when in 2015, when the SDGs were conceived, there was not much place given to the role of ICTs and new technologies. And today it's really become apparent that we really cannot achieve the SDGs without seizing and harnessing ICTs and new emerging technologies. And again, because this is a commitment which all governments, including those here in the Arab world, have made to accelerate progress, it has really become incumbent on them to really seize these technologies. And of course, this is one of the things which is really driving this sort of digital transformation in terms of how government services are being delivered, healthcare, education, even in the judiciary. Now, let's look at the second point. According to ITU, I think it was in late 2019, early 2020 that we now had 50% of the world connected. And so this whole idea of people sort of standing on the sidelines, that has really had to change because, technology, the internet, these are things which are happening everywhere. And of course, we can see tremendous economic potential, new industries, job creation, on the social level, of course, greater inclusion of more persons, etc. And so this has made it become a much more important issue on the political agenda. And so, of course, governments, definitely have had to respond. And which brings us to the third point of COVID-19. Again, with the social distancing measures, the lockdowns, it suddenly became clear that for countries to stay afloat, for example, if you look at this, the education sector, we had some like almost 6 billion students, suddenly out of school. And for governments, for countries to continue ensuring that their students were learning, especially in this day and age when we see the importance of human talent, human capital as a very much a deciding force in the competitiveness of countries, this was something which could not be left unaddressed. And so, of course, governments had to really ramp up efforts in the education sector to make sure that learning could continue. And we've seen this happening in other areas, manufacturing, agriculture, other areas. And which brings us to a fourth point. So yes, there's a lot more uptake. We have more people coming online. And we're also seeing that digital transformation, while it has many potential, many positive effects, there are also some negative ones. We see, for example, that many of these technologies and digital transformation processes, they have the ability to exacerbate inequalities. And so, of course, this is something which can create social tensions. We've had legacies of, for example, the Arab Springs. And of course, these types of social disruptions, they can really set back progress, many years. So these are things which really need to be managed. We see also the impact of things like fake news, the way that this can, really impact markets. We see challenges around things like privacy. There have also been a number of spectacular ransomware events. So those are some of the negatives. And of course, we have the positives. So in many cases, how do we make sure that we encourage, let's say, private sector industries to take services to less populated areas? So lots of governance and management issues to be addressed. And in closing, I just want to mention a couple of things that UNESCO and some of our partners have been doing to support this sort of digital transformation process. And first of all, I must mention our ITU UNESCO Regional Digital Inclusion Week for Arab States, which I've had the great pleasure of co-leading with Kareem for a number of years. And again, the whole idea behind digital inclusion is how do we build the skills? How do we bring the various actors together so we can ensure that the entire society can be part of this process, especially with the need to the marginalized users, persons with disabilities, migrants, women, youth, and so many others. Because this is really key if we want to really achieve that SDG promise of no one left behind. UNESCO, we've also been working on something we call MIL, Media and Information Literacy. And in fact, we've run an Arab Global MIL Week. And this basically makes sure that people have the necessary skills, attitudes, competencies to really engage and participate in a society where increasingly digital technology is at the heart of it. At our headquarters and also with all our member states around the world, UNESCO has been moving forward in the establishment of a recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. This is the first standard-setting instrument of its kind globally. We're also working on building the capacity of judicial actors, judges, lawyers, etc., to grapple with the types of challenges that new and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence provide. And of course, making sure that strong institutions exist within the region. We are also rolling out a capacity building toolkit, which will enable civil servants, government administrations, etc., to adopt, incorporate artificial intelligence and also other new and emerging technologies which are at the heart of the digital transformations that we're seeing into the work of delivering better, more effective governmental services. So I stop here. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
No, thank you very much for the excellent context of what digital transformation is, the pros and cons. I just have maybe one piece of good news based on your intervention. You mentioned in 2019, 2020, the people online were around 50% according to ITU figures. Just 2 weeks ago, I think we launched the new figures for 2021. And the good news is that this number has risen to 63% of people are now online. For the Arab region, that's 66%, which is above the global average, which is excellent. Now, of course, the situation is quite different from LDCs to developing countries to even Gulf states. So there's clearly a digital divide, like you mentioned. And so the multi-stakeholder partnerships are needed for that. And speaking of that, my next question goes to Danny from UNDP. Being the digital transformation specialist in UNDP Arab states, what are the goals and benefits of a multi-stakeholder partnerships for digital transformation? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Karim, and good afternoon to you and to everyone. It is really with a great pleasure to be here with you today. And allow me first, please, to thank the ITU, Unesco, for organizing this important session and to inviting UNDP and myself to this esteemed panel. So to answer your question and to start with, in UNDP, we believe that digital transformation is a comprehensive work. So it's not simply of supporting a government or a country for building, for example, a data center or automating business processes or focusing only or solely on operations and administrations. Our digital transformation for us is to connect the knowledge in UNDP across our networks of partners and come up collaboratively with better ideas to serve and to better serve the people we are working for in this region. And this is very much in line with the Secretary General roadmap on digital cooperation. So to answer your question, one of the main goals I can see that partnerships, networks, and joint ventures are critical to bring about a favorable digital ecosystem for the region. In UNDP, we believe in the whole of society approach and the whole of government approach. And we have set a framework for that, especially for our digital assessments that we conduct in countries, the readiness assessment and digital landscape assessment that we are currently conducting in multiple countries in the region that brings together a 360-degree perspective of multiple stakeholders for the digital transformation. Of course, other UN agencies are also tackling many areas related to digitalization. And this is allowing us in many occasions to partner and complement each other's work to support, first of all, inclusive design, mitigating risks and progress by harnessing the potential of the digital toward achieving the SDGs agenda. It will help overcome some difficulties like the COVID and others. An example that have been brought during the discussion now is the League of Arab States. It's a key partner for us in the region. And during this year, we had several roundtable discussions on policy dialogue. And we also collaborated with ESCWA on this policy dialogue and the digital transformation roundtable to support the League of Arab States and the member states in their work on digital. As for the benefits, there are a lot of benefits. I can mention some. So the first one is that we can better integrate Arab countries in the global value chains, in my opinion. Because of the richness and variety of our mandates as international organizations and agencies, we could better assist these countries collaboratively. Let me give an example. One of the key issues in digital transformation globally and in the region is digital skills and the gap between the market demand and the digital skills and the skills needed to respond to this demand. Globally this year, UNDP and ITU shaped hands for a strong partnership to strengthen global digital capacity building. We have launched together a joint facility for digital capacity development to support those not currently served by existing digital capacity resources or channels. So we wanted to make digital opportunities accessible to all, including marginalized groups, women, and others, leaving no one behind. And in the region, within the same spirit, this has been translated into many initiatives UNDP is taking on digital skills, developing courses in Arabic with partnership with universities, but also like our global partnership and our partnership with GSMA in the region under the project or program for 4 years from now. We are trying to leverage the mentors and investors to support startups led by women on digital that has digital interventions and that contribute to the advancement of the digital agenda. A second benefit, I can see that together we can, and through multi-stakeholders approach, we can tackle common challenges and exploit complementary strengths and in a systematic way. So if I want to go back to the Sudan example that you have provided at the beginning, UNDP has also requested to support the country on digitalization in different areas, and that including support to the Prime Minister Office, to the leading agency, the Ministry of Telecommunication and Information Technologies, and other agencies. So during my mission to Sudan and when I met with different stakeholders, including international organizations, I've learned that World Bank, ITU, African Development Bank, USAID, they are all working on digital interventions. ITU was supporting on digital strategies, different national digital strategies. The World Bank, as an example, is working on the family support program that require a database to be constructed for beneficiaries for cash disbursement. While UNFPA was also working on a census database, and UNDP was supported was requested to support NADIC, which is the leading agency on digital identity. And then learning all these challenges that is facing the other UN agencies, it could be that we can support the NADIC in a way that connects and aligns these databases to allow the other agencies and the country to better deliver and efficiently deliver. A last benefit I want to mention is from regional perspective, that if we want to compare to other regions, the most innovative regions are those in which key institutions, firms, governments, universities, civic leaders, NGOs are able to work in concert to find joint solutions to common problems. And to give you an example, UNDP just organized a regional training on digital governance for sustainable development. We have partnered with Estonia e-Governance Academy on that. And we try to provide training to 180 governmental staff, NGOs, academics, and key players in digital transformation to build their capacity on e-governance, digital governance, and to speak about the key elements of whole of government approach. And this event had opened a discussion with GIZ colleagues that are working on similar or related initiatives to see how we can join forces together and how we can open or increase the efficiency of this work. There are many benefits and goals to mention, but I will stop here for the sake of the time. I want to say partnerships and working collaboratively is a key to success in any digital transformation agenda in the region. Thank you, and over back to you, Karim.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And I totally agree with you, particularly on all points, actually. I want to maybe start with the point that you mentioned regarding the Secretary General's roadmap for digital cooperation. In fact, I think a couple of weeks ago, the General Assembly launched our common agenda, which includes a commitment. One of its key commitments is on digital collaboration, emphasizing the importance of partnerships and collaboration on digital transformation at large. And so you rightly mentioned all those excellent points and areas that UNDP is working on. ITU has similar initiatives, and it would be interesting to explore further bilaterally how we can synergize and cooperate. And happy to discuss this with you in the near future. Now, my next speaker, actually two speakers, will try to focus a little bit more on sectoral important issues on digital transformation. Starting with John Mark, can I ask you, how has digital transformation affected the agricultural sector, particularly in the Arab region? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karim. And first, let me thank you for inviting me in this important session. I think we first met a little bit more than 2 years ago when we were preparing together an international forum on innovation in agri-food systems that should have taken place on 15th of March 2020 in Saudi Arabia. I don't think I need to explain why it did not take place, but the preparation for this forum really triggered an acceleration in FAO work on digital transformation. And the last 2 years, we know, were extraordinary years for all of us, and the agriculture sector is not an exception. The COVID-19 has shaken the world, and we don't see yet the end, and we don't understand the full impact. Even before the pandemic, we had a series of issues facing agriculture in the region. Food security was not doing well. The number of hungry people was increasing and is still. Nutrition, a big problem of nutrition, rapid population growth, very scarce natural resource, including water, high unemployment rates in rural areas, low agricultural productivity, weak rural infrastructure. It was a sector, and it is still to a large extent a sector that was a little bit abandoned. And if you add to this the challenge of conflict, migration, pest outbreaks, and climate change, we really had and have still to a large extent a broken agri-food system. So the pandemic came on top of this and added an additional burden on a sector that was already suffering. But it also brought a clear disruption in our way to look at agriculture. First, it brought back to the front line the absolute centrality of food. And as countries were adopting measures to curb the propagation of the virus, they also immediately understood the necessity to ensure that food continues to be produced, processed, distributed, so that we would not transform a health crisis into a hunger crisis. But second, it also brought some new opportunities. It brought a series of accelerations in agriculture, in what we now call digital agriculture. Digital agriculture has the potential to make farming and the entire agri-food value chain more efficient, more sustainable, more rewarding, and addressing especially some of the issues that I've mentioned before. It can help creating businesses and develop new employment opportunities in the countryside, and in particular for smallholders. Let me give a few examples. In water, we know that this is a very water scarce region. We can, through the combination of remote sensing and mobile application, we can assess in real time the situation of evapotranspiration, soil moisture, and then provide the right advice to farmers on how much water they need to put in their irrigated field. We can monitor groundwater levels and provide advice on their sustainable uses. We can monitor the different parameters related to crop production and better predict crop yields, and again provide advice on remedial actions when we see some problem. The weather forecast and the way to convey weather information to farmers is also improving very fast. There is a domain on which we now work a lot, and we didn't in the past, is the whole domain of modernizing agricultural extension. You know that the classical model of extension, reaching out to farmers to provide them with advice, has been in crisis for a long time. It is expensive, not effective. We don't have enough people reaching enough farmers. And agricultural extension can now benefit from emerging digital technologies that provide farmers with the ability to receive tailor-made advice about their production and to be in direct contact with the experts and advisors. So whatever problem they have, they can find platforms where they share their problems and they receive advice and solutions. Marketing on food products is increasingly benefiting also from e-platforms. By eliminating intermediaries and developing effective logistics, e-platform can help decreasing the difference between the price that farmers get for their product and the price paid by the consumer. And therefore, everybody wins. Just as an example, Fresh Source is an Egyptian e-commerce startup that connects producers directly to retail fruit and vegetable shops in Cairo. So you receive the right product and the right volumes and the right time. In banks, and this is not only for agriculture, but this is extremely useful for agriculture, all the financial technology are reducing risks and increasing returns to agricultural investment. They make agriculture more attractive. They bring credit to farmers who could usually not get credit. If you link that with agricultural insurance, this could really be a game changer in many situations. So these are just a few examples on how digital is transforming agriculture in our region today. And I very much agree with what I heard earlier. Our role here is to make sure that these innovations serve basically our 2030 agenda. We want a more sustainable, we want agriculture, we want a more efficient agriculture, we want an agriculture that's more resilient to shocks and also more inclusive, taking into account the needs of the smallholder. So this is very much the areas in which we work. We are now developing a regional digital innovation strategy, which will be discussed at our next FAO regional ministerial conference in January. And in parallel, FAO itself at the headquarters is developing a corporate science and innovation strategy that will certainly benefit from the work done in this region on digital agriculture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these excellent insights. You started off with sort of an inspired message from Al Pacino, where you said, just when I thought it was out, they pulled me back in regarding COVID. And with the Omicron variant, and with Europe starting to shut down, we certainly hope we don't go down that path. But you mentioned also that it's important not to transfer the health crisis into a food crisis, which I think is critical, like you mentioned. And also you highlighted some of the key digital transformation impacts of or opportunities even for digital agriculture and for farmers. Which brings me going to the health sector. I want to invite Mr. Muhammad Noor, Engineer Muhammad Noor, if you can explain also similarly what has been the how has digital transformation affected the health sector in the Arab region. Please, the floor is yours.
Many thanks for inviting me to this important dialogue, and I thank you very much for everyone to mention some hints about health while you are talking about other components of or activities for tracking of digital transformation. And thank you also for aligning these efforts for the UN leadership for Arab digital agenda. Health is, of course, a human right, and it shapes the mandate of WHO, which is pursuing health for all and leaving no one behind. And for that reason, WHO is targeting improvement in 3 billion population through universal health coverage, which is pursuing equality and quality of service. And we are tracking this through 15 indicators. Health emergencies, and this is for preparedness and for acting during emergencies. And we have 6 indicators that tracks this. And for health of the population, we have 14 SDG indicators that are managed through the activities of WHO, and we build our activities and our strategic plans around these activities. With the exception of the GCC in our region, in EMRO region, most of the countries are suffering from limited investment in health, weak governance of activities or projects of health, poor infrastructure for digitalization, and emergencies due to political conflicts. Digital transformation is an integral enabling component for health services, especially for universal health coverage. And universal health coverage requires, for example, electronic medical record, electronic health records, telemedicine implementation, and other things to enable reaching to the population and communities that are lagging and that are suffering from missing a kind of human health recognition. Digital transformation also is enabling some emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, big data analytics, other things that is required for improvement of diagnostic and automation and reducing the load on doctors, and also to reduce the for remote areas. It's enabling the doctors that has in areas that has lag of trained workforce. The remote process is helping this. The few years before this, the last 2 years when COVID-19 emerged, it made the digital transformation a must, because to have this kind of tracking case and making surveillances and make contact tracing and make, for example, digital certificate for vaccination, and enabling the NCD patients to receive the medication and to repeat it without adding burden on doctors is enabled through digital transformation. So, I believe that this requires a strategic action, and we cannot do this sustainable change in health services or improvements without having a strategy. And that's why WHO has initiated 2 structures inside. We have the science structure to harness the science vision, and the digital health and innovation department, which is caring for utilizing all the technology of emerging technologies, the digital technology, to help the health sector in the countries. So this is my intervention for now, and I'm very happy to get in touch with all of you and to think together on how to improve the digital agenda in our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Muhammad. So for the next round of second round of questions for other speakers, if it's possible, I would like to invite them all to stick to 2 or 3 minutes maximum in light of the time shortage. But I want to maybe follow up with a question to you, Muhammad, since you're very excited to explore how we can collaborate together. Can I ask you what kind of partnerships are required to promote digital health in the Arab region? And can you also tell us about the partnerships that WHO has formed in this domain globally and regionally?
Globally, actually, WHO started in 2005 to recognize the importance of e-health and digital health. And the first resolution was issued in 2005. And then across the years until 2011, when we collaborated with ITU to develop the ITU, the WHO ITU toolkit that is supporting countries to develop their strategy and their national strategy for digital health and e-health implementation. We recognize several components that has to be moving together in integral way. For example, the governance, the workforce development, the infrastructure of a country, the about 7 components that we care for, including legislation and other things that is not directly related to digitalization, but it's very important to enable the environment for moving forward with digitalization. So after that, we had another recognition of interoperability and standardization through a resolution that came also in 2013. And in 2018, we had another resolution that is recognizing the digital health in its own components, including 4 objectives. The first of them is partnership, recognizing partnership for achieving digital health. So I think the global strategy of digital health, I will copy the link in the chat here, related to is helping setting the agenda for digital health improvement in countries, and to move forward with partnership with other organizations. Currently, we are working with ITU in supporting the regional strategy for digital health, and we are helping countries that agree to receive this kind of support to develop their own national plans and national implementation for digital health, addressing their own priorities through a dialogue with all stakeholders who are engaged in developing digital health. And we are doing this with ITU through a consultant, and I hope that we, during the implementation, we can engage more components with other colleagues and other partners in other UN organizations. Over to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And similarly to John Mark, what kind of partnerships are required to promote digital agriculture in the Arab region? And can you also tell us about the partnerships FAO has formed in this domain globally and regionally? I know you touched a little bit about that on your first answer to the first question, but perhaps you can elaborate. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you. This is probably today really an easy question, because I think we are at least at the UN level, we are really moving towards one UN and acknowledging that we all can bring an element of the solution. I mentioned this international forum that we were organizing. There were many partners, starting with ITU, UNDP, WFP, ILO, etc. And we have learned, in particular in this region, to work very closely with ITU. In particular, we bring the agriculture part, you bring the digital part, and I think we really complement each other very well. We have had in many countries work together towards what we call e-agriculture strategies. We will continue doing that. This year we have a project starting in the Maghreb, and we'll be very glad to continue this partnership. This is really benefiting everybody, and in particular the countries. In FAO we also have more and more partnership with financial partners, very eager to see digital applications being adopted in agriculture. Partnership obviously with academia, research institutes. Let me just mention, I think today we bring together the Lebanese Agriculture Research Institute and the National Agriculture Research Center of Jordan. They meet to discuss digital applications in agriculture. We have supported the two institutions over the past years, and now we are starting to build a capacity, a sub-regional capacity. Obviously, the public and the private sector, being the regulators for telecom or the operators, they have a lot to offer in this. We have in FAO a collaboration with Google, Microsoft, the European Space Agency. For Google, for instance, we have a partnership with Google Maps. Maps are very important for us, bring a lot of information. And then we use this collaboration to foster innovation in the use of satellite imagery and visualization tools. Well, these are just a few examples, but definitely we are moving very fast towards partnering so that we can serve our countries better.
Excellent, excellent. That sounds very exciting, and definitely happy to collaborate with you on all these fronts. So on UNDP side, UNDP has been actively engaged regionally and nationally in digital transformation, like you rightly highlighted, Danny. From your experience, what are the main challenges facing countries in this domain?
Yes, thank you very much, Karim. I'll try to be concise on this answer, though it's a difficult one to be on. So there are many challenges facing the countries and advancing in their digital transformation agenda. You can easily spot this if you notice that some countries are doing a lot on digital, but they are dropping in ranking in many relevant important indexes like the EGDI, the E-Governance Development Index, and some data that ITU released like indicators. And this is because of two things. There are like country level challenges and regional challenges. So as you mentioned, we've been actively engaged in supporting in regional digital transformation work like e-governance, e-services, digital skills, data, emerging technologies, and others. But in many cases, we've seen that the work is being impeded or challenged by different issues. From intra-regional perspective and cross-border, there is a digital divide. A latest UNDP research and assessment we have conducted, it clustered the Arab countries into 3 or 4 main digital clusters. You have the top performers that has progressed a lot, but still facing some challenges I will talk about very shortly. There are like the middle performers who did some work on digital transformation in terms of infrastructure, access penetration, utilization, skills, etc., and advanced economies like digital economies, but still facing challenges. The major challenge is related to, for example, high fees and taxes, which reduce accessibility for the poorest segments and disadvantaged segments. And then there is a third group, which is the poor performance, like low development countries and the country affected by conflict. And there to work on digital transformation, there should be like favorable conditions for policy interventions, investments, and others. So to give you an example of such intra-regional challenge, we wanted to do a trade corridor between 2 countries from 2 different groups. And then we faced a challenge when we came to the digital components that one country is advanced, the other needs a lot of work, in terms of technology and others. This intra-region is impeding the regional work. On country level, there are plenty of challenges. I can start by saying, talking about applying whole of government approach. There is a lack in applying that approach. And this is why you see many of the digital strategies are failing or are being repeated or slowly in implementation. You don't see a success in the indicators. So this is very important to engineer a user-driven public administration where digital public services are designed to maximize the efficiency and responsiveness and quality and user friendliness to the citizens. There is another challenge related to financing the digital strategy and finding a sustainable financing model. We see in some countries building and automating business processes and doing digitalization work. And when the donor money is over, then we see like there is a problem, a challenge to continue. So there should be a sustainable financing model for digitalization. On service delivery in the government, there is a challenge. For example, of infrastructure and digital service accessibility. It is really being challenged. There are plenty of digital services out there, but accessing these services because, for example, some rural areas don't have internet connectivity, or there is an awareness problem. In one of the advanced countries in digital transformation at the beginning of COVID, they automated 480 processes, but while the citizens were using 60 or 70 because of lack of awareness. So this is an area that it's a challenge and needs to work on. Service utilization in terms of affordability, like high prices in many countries. For example, in Lebanon now, if you look at the price of a laptop for a citizen, it's 10 times or more the minimum wages. So the affordability to buy equipment and to buy the internet, or even how to use it, or how skills at the citizens level. Other challenges related to digital economy, I will just be brief. I mentioned the digital skills, the gap between the digital skills and the demand in the market. We need to prepare the marginalized group, youth, women, in order to be ready for the job market. The policies and regulations, the way to issue policies, and how nimble a country can be to issue a policy related to digital and to quickly formulate it, that's a challenge. E-participation in digital transformation, that's another challenge in different countries. E-democracy is one of them. The political situation, you mentioned the example of Sudan. You see in other countries like conflict, not allowing the country to import or to upgrade from 3G to 4G. Or for example, the political polarization among ministries between parties, it's impeding the role of the leading agency and the coordination ministry on digital transformation. That's a big issue. Open government, this is another challenge that we need to champion for. So this is like a sample of the challenges that you face, but I still believe like going in whole of society, whole of government, working collaboratively as multiple stakeholders in the field, we can overcome a lot of these challenges. I'll stop here and over back to you.
Thank you very much for that. That's actually quite insightful. I want to maybe add to what you're saying is that perhaps the starting point to address all these challenges per country and perhaps in the region is the 360-degree review model that you mentioned, which I think is a critical element, a starting point for all countries. And then to build on that, we're developing a national strategy to address this. Often what we see in countries is that they jump to launching initiatives that go without direction, that are not sustainable and are not even scalable in many cases. And so building these national strategies for digital transformation is a critical component to make sure that this has the political buy-in at the highest level of government and also that it's sustainable and that can move forward, hopefully, to meet the country's developmental goals. And in line with that, I want to maybe go to Paul. UNESCO is a key stakeholder in the domain, in this domain since WSIS, along with all the partners, by the way, who are on this panel and others, definitely. But over the years, you managed to form many successful partnerships. Can you tell us, based on your experience, what are the lessons learned to form successful regional partnerships, particularly to address digital transformation in the Arab region?
Well, first of all, I think as one of the things as an actor for development, as someone who wants to make change, I think one of the things is I think this idea to collaborate is something which is very much part of the UNESCO DNA. I mean, when you look at our constitution, for example, we talk about things like, for example, the importance of mutual knowledge and understanding of other people. We talk about things like if we want to be successful, we need to have intellectual and moral solidarity, because those, by understanding others, that is the way in which you can really effectively serve them. And of course, as an intergovernmental, again, the need to work with the governmental partners, national partners, to ensure that, our work is relevant. More specifically with respect to, digital transformation, I think one of the things that has really is sort of like a propeller for our work is Article 27 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. And it's something which people don't talk about that much. And it's this idea that everyone needs to be able to benefit from the advances in science and technology. And so, of course, from that's really a sort of a departure point for making sure that those organizations, those groups, people with disabilities, for example, refugees, and others, they really are brought into the fold to really have to be part of this conversation. And one of the things that we've seen as well is that, yes, it's good to work with these groups to bring them to the table, but it's not enough just to give them a seat at the table. We need to make sure that they have agency. In other words, they need to be able to discuss and speak about the issues. And so, of course, that links very much to our work as far as it goes to finding providing and supporting capacity building so that these groups can really articulate, what is, how do these issues relate to them? How do they interpret it? How do they localize it? And of course, working with like-minded partners and champions. And just to give a very quick example, one of the things we're doing right now is we're rolling out what's called the UNESCO Internet Universality Indicators. And basically, this is a set of indicators which enables governments to use the internet more effectively for their social and economic development. And I should also add other national partners. And a key part of this is building what we call multi-stakeholder advisory boards, which are comprised of a whole range of stakeholders who can come and articulate those issues which are of concern. And I think by working in a committed manner, being a neutral broker, that is something which I found has been really, really key to success. And I mentioned like-minded partners and champions. I mean, all collaborations with ITU and with other stakeholders, that has really been key in terms of being not only able to reach those groups who we need to reach, but also intersecting with a whole range of other stakeholders who are maybe not necessarily part of the UNESCO constituencies, so for example, ITU, you work very closely with telecoms operators. So again, through our partnerships, we're able to link into those groups. And for example, in our case, we have very strong links, for example, through our UNESCO chairs with universities and other groups. And so that's something that we can bring. So I think by having some concrete ideas, but also being able to add value to these partnerships, I think that's something which is really, really critical to the sustainability and longevity of our purpose. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And couldn't agree more on the need for to tap in sort of into the memberships or network of each of the UN agencies and other partners, definitely to expand the impact in that regard. Which brings me to my final question of the session, last but definitely not least, how to Mr. Ayman Sherbini, how important is a one UN approach to assist countries in the region to digital transformation? Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, that is a very important question, and thank you for leaving it till the end. And the simple answer about the importance is that very important dialogue that we had today. We have here 6 UN organizations. We have at the global level 32 like us, so we have other 26. Imagine the miracles that can be done with this kind of a platform of, let us say, 30 players, UN players. 6 only can do such kind of miraculous, like bilateral or trilateral partnerships. Imagine if they are quadrilateral or octalateral or whatever. Imagine they are really full-fledged. And that is actually the spirit of 2 things. The spirit of the Arab digital agenda. There is a pivot in cluster 4 for the e-health and the Mr. Noor's digital health strategies that he speaks about regarding the national and the regional. We have also a placeholder for the e-learning in cluster 4, and we have a place for culture and media in cluster 5. So UNESCO have very strong 2 pivotal, let us say, footprints in such a thing. But imagine now if we have also the FAO, and we have UNIDO, and we have WMO, and we have many of us together in a platform, continuously meeting in a, let us say, a systematic manner, sharing things about their experience, but more about the project for the region. We need to form this cloud, our own, not internet cloud, but UN cloud at the regional level. For us, for our verticals, and for the stakeholders. And the platform is now ready with what we have now is ESCWA has already solid like commitments from ITU, for sure, from DESA, from UNCTAD, and from Unesco. And these are the, let us say, early comers who started with us last year, 21st of December. Well, it's almost a year now, Karim, imagine. It is the same week and the same like tough period of the year when we said, now we got the green light by the Ministerial Council on the proposed vision document on the modalities to do an Arab digital agenda. It was in December by the council. And then we convened before the Christmas, before everything. And 3 months later, we did our first workshop to the League of Arab States, but not alone, with our side of the game, which is our sister regions. We had UN regional commissions from ECA, ESCAP, ECLAC, and from ECE also we got the European Commission together coming to support this mega initiative for the Arab region. So the answer now is the many to many. We will implement and live the matrix of ITU that inspired the cluster, the 5 clusters. We will get the intersections of everything related to agriculture, for example, the agriculture, with health, with trust action line, with infrastructure action line, with media, with you name it, all the action lines. So this kind of framework is very important, and we don't have in the UN more summits that are important nowadays, reinventing itself than the World Summit on Information Society. This whole event is in the realm and in the, let us say, is embracing the WSIS. So we have also to look at the other proposition when I said that we have 2 propositions. So this is the Arab Digital Agenda. That is the object, the what, and there is the how. We suggested in our closed UN Group in Information Society UNGIS meeting last Saturday, last Monday, 1 week ago, with the presence of UNDP, ITU, UNCTAD, and UNESCO. We had Marielza, we had others. And in the second day, in the opening ceremony, inaugural session, with Mr. Jelassi from UNESCO, Ms. Khalida from UNDP, and our Deputy Executive, Under Secretary General of Mr. Guterres, Mr. Lee Zeman of DESA. All of us, we said, we are going and hoping to form kind of that cloud at the regional level, inspired by UNGS. We don't want to create layers. We don't want to complicate things, but we need to be inspired of the idea of that we are together and we meet regularly, exchange thoughts on opportunities, and exchange plans on the earmarked projects by the Arab Digital Agenda. From this, we can really accelerate the decade of action, which we preach, which our Secretary General has announced a year ago. And we can also live and the reality of digital cooperation. Add to that all what you have said validly regarding the multi-stakeholder, the business sector, the academia, the civil society, all of this are factored in. So I invite you for 2 things, if you may. First of all, we want to recap, and Karim knows, but of course we are putting a lot of pressure on all of us this Wednesday. We have 3 appearances on Wednesday. We will recap together what is the future of that event next year and the year after and so on. And that is not mandatory, but it is, if you can, I know there are vacations. If not, we can do it also once again in January or February. There is another thing by us who are the organizers who are going to also make an opening, closing remarks. And there is other sessions related to Internet Governance Forum. So this was one invitation this week. Maybe it is double, maybe it's not. You receive the email now. It is being sent now. The other thing, which is more practical to the ground, we invite you to the Joint Technical Committee meeting of the ADA project, Arab Digital Agenda project, 31st of January until 3rd of February in a physical setting or hybrid, according to the Corona thing, in Cairo with the League of Arab States, with all the experts who are working with us from the 5 organizations I mentioned. Now they become 8 and then 9 and so on, to put our real advice on the way forward for the Arab region. Since time is ticking, we cannot answer the most important question today, but we want to answer it in end of January, which Karim knows what I'm going to say. What would be the baseline of each of us sector and a target for the region? I think every one of you have an answer. For example, for agriculture, the situation is X, and we need to reach Y by 5 years. Maybe 3 X's, 3 Y's. The same for UNESCO, the same for FAO, the same for WHO and UNIDO, and so on and so forth. We would like to really together put realistic, ambitious targets for the region, and for League of Arab States, or for the Council of Ministers to adopt and to really mobilize efforts to it. And then we can also jointly together can find a lot of bankability, a lot of funding, a lot of support for this approach, so that we walk them the way for really accelerated decade. But we don't say decade, half a decade. We want to put target for 5 years. So that is another invitation for working together in that it's a sort of a boot camp, this joint technical committee, expert and a research team, and or somebody from your side. You can also nominate a researcher, a junior, an associate, or whatever, but it's research work, the brainware to do it together. If done together, then as Paul said, it is the ownership or the sense of agency. Then we will implement it together. And this is what Karim was inspiring us to do today, how to implement together. We start from really formulating the dream together. And this is a slogan of us, this event, shaping the future. So thank you, Karim, for helping us to work together to shape our future, digital future.
Definitely my pleasure, and totally in line with what you kindly said. I personally, what I believe in what you said, I also want to see, I mean, my ideal scenario is that I hope that one day we can together approach countries with a menu of products that we can assist in on the ground with partners, not just us, on digital, to assist them on all digital transformation aspects. And so with this vision in mind, I want to maybe end this session and invite all of you to work together starting the beginning of next year to hopefully see if we can either reach that vision or reach a common agenda or vision that works for all of us to hopefully assist the countries in the region in their digital transformation journeys. I want to thank you all for the excellent session, your excellent remarks throughout the session. And I want to thank all the organizers working in the back end to make this event a success. And I invite you to pick up on the invitations extended by Ayman to participate in the sessions on Wednesday. I will do my best to try to participate, hopefully. So with that,
and mark your calendar. For Karim already did his best in the bootcamp, last bootcamp. Did very productive, thought-provoking input. So inshallah together, and maybe we do also a meeting regarding how can we form our cloud more regularly in February or in March, inshallah.
Sure, inshallah. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy your Christmas vacations, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Pleasure.
The Arab International Digital Cooperation and Development Forum, the CDF, will bring together representatives and experts from Arab governments, the business sector, civil society, the technical community, academia, and international organizations. DCDF will be held virtually from 13 to 23 December 2021 by ESCO, LAS, ITU, UNCTAD, and Unesco. Through almost 30 sessions over 8 days, you can participate in policy debate on priority issues in the fields of internet policies and digital development globally and in the Arab region. DCDF aims to align the Arab tracks of the World Summit on the Information Society and the Internet Governance Forum to maximize opportunities for digital cooperation. Register now to join us in this journey from 13 to 23 December. Together, let's shape our digital future.